Marcus Smart has been on a tear since he returned to the lineup 6 games ago. He's averaging nearly 12 points and 7 assists with good shooting splits and is a plus 123 in 178 minutes. And most importantly, the C's are 5-1 in that span. All right, we got Chris Forsberg here with us. We got Phil Perry. And I'm actually Forsberg, I know we always hear from you first because you're a basketball expert, but we're actually going to go to Phil Perry first on this one because, Phil, are you coming around on Marcus Smart?
Coming around might be strong, but I will say, lately, I have really enjoyed watching Marcus Smart play basketball. And it's been a while for me. I would say last night, the first half, tremendous from Marcus Smart because the decision-making to me was great. And that to me has always been the issue. I've always talked about that with Chris Forsberg. I think he tends to sometimes, far too often, think he is something that he's not, which is a star player, which is a great shooter, and that's when we see the bad Marcus Smart. But when he's playing great defense, as he has been, when he's making good decisions, when the shots he takes are around the rim and he's finishing the way he was last night, 6 threes, it's still a little, that's a hair too much for me by the end of the night, Chris, but after the first half, it was only 2, and it was like every decision he made was a good one, and the hustle was relentless. That's great Marcus Smart. I've never had a problem with that part of Marcus Smart's game. It's just the percentage of the time that we see that Marcus Smart, and we're seeing it more and more, it feels like.
I don't know what to say here. Welcome to the dark side or the
Listen,
good side.
He will hurt me, and he will hurt you, Chris, and he will hurt Celtics fans at some point down the line. But right now, he's playing great.
No, and you know it's funny though. I think it's funny that this is the game you're started converting. And I know it's more the stretch than last night, but there were a couple of those threes last night where I'm like, ooh, Marcus, but he did make them, and he has just been fantastic in this stretch. And I honestly don't know what it is. I don't think he's playing too much differently from the start of the year. I definitely think he has embraced the defensive side more, and he's certainly pushing the pace offensively. I do think when they've allowed him to run the offense, it has looked great, and he has been able to get Jalen and Jason shots or take pressure off of them when the defenses are collapsing on him. So as long as the ball starts in Marcus's hands, usually good things happen. The tough part is when Marcus is off the ball and it's just a catch and shoot guy, and that's when you start getting frustrated when those misses rack up. But yeah, I can't argue. I think Marcus has been fantastic in the stretch.
Okay, I need you to quell a Marcus Smart fear for me, though, Chris Forsberg, because he has been great in this stretch, and that stretch has coincided with trade rumors around him and people saying maybe it's time to move on from Marcus Smart. And if my memory serves, the trade deadline is February 10th. So on like February 11th, are we going to see old Marcus Smart just chucking up threes again?
So, I can't unequivocally say there's not going to be nights where he makes you mad with the 3-pointers he takes. But I do think for the totality of this season, it has been more good Marcus Smart than bad. And he was the one who came out and said, like, hey, the Jays got to pass the ball better when defenses are on them. And he was also the first one last night to come out and be like, hey, good game, Jays. 15 assists between you, 37 points, leading to 7 threes, 6 layups. Like, I think Marcus has shown his value both with the way he plays and the leadership. And I'm okay if there are some nights where we, scream and say, Marcus, come on, back. And I think more often than not, he'll do that.
Sure, he's positive now because he's on the trade block still.
We got to figure out a way to keep those trade rumors going after the deadline.
Is there like a secondary trade deadline that happens in like June? I don't know. Can we have that happen? Speaking of trades, guys, if the Celtics want to maybe at least make a push in the postseason, make it past the first round, they probably need more shooting. They might still need to make some small little tweaks. So I think if between Dennis Schroeder and Josh Richardson, you should keep Josh Richardson because Dennis Schroeder has so much, he costs so much money. He's a 1-year deal, and I don't think he fits here. So I think that if you can get anything in return for him, you ship him out. Phil, Josh Richardson or Dennis Schroeder? Which do you keep? Which do you jettison?
Oh, you have to keep Richardson if that's the decision you're trying to make. I just wonder how you are getting that shooting in return. Is it for Dennis Schroeder? Are you giving up a young player off your bench? I'd be totally okay with that, too, because I think some of these guys, I know some people are clamoring to see more from them. I think I've seen enough from a handful of those guys that are coming off the bench. So if that can get you some shooting, then that would be great, too. Chris, I just don't know where it comes from, how they pick up that piece they need.
Yeah, and right now, Josh Richardson might be their most valuable trade asset. If you're not moving Marcus Smart, then two-way wings who, have proven it in the past and are valuable to contenders. So I don't know what that gets you, though. I'm not sure Josh Richardson gets you a first-round pick. And so for that reason, I think you keep him and figure it out after the season. He could also be used salary-wise in whatever your next big move is and combining salaries or whatever you have to do. But he fits really well with this core right now, and so ride it. As for Schroeder, you're right, Phil. Like, I don't think they're getting anything in return for him. You might have to just hope for a little bit of cap relief, and maybe, if you're lucky, if you get a second round pick, that might just evaporate. So that's going to be difficult. I do think if you want shooting, it's more likely you got to give up on a young guy. And so maybe Romeo Langford or someone of the ilk is moved to do that, because you just don't have room to play all these and groom these young guys. So why not, before their value completely evaporates, try to get something for them?